Well, a good flawless job by Oscar Piastri this weekend. Pretty much start to finish, practice, qualifying, and race. Beautiful execution in the fastest car. Made it look pretty straightforward in the end. In this video, I'm going to run you through the race analysis. We're also going to talk about the start and Oscar's defense or lack of defense. Going to talk about George Russell and Lando Norris's attack and defense on Charles Leclerc. A couple of things I want to pick at. Also the apex rule, who is in front, who is behind, who is entitled to space, and so on. So let's get into it. If you're interested in what my thoughts are, definitely keep watching. Welcome back to the channel, guys. My name is Martin. I'm a specialist technical coach and mentor for open formula drivers. It is 1:14 a.m. Not as tired as last night, so ready to get cracking. I've had a look at the pole lap from Oscar Piastri, just going back a step to Saturday qualifying, and exactly what we saw in the Bahrain test, the mega front end grip from the McLaren still being present in the hands of Oscar Piastri. I've had a look at the lap at turn 8. I'm going to show you guys now. I reckon there's about 1.5 to 2 tenths in turn 8 in the hands of Oscar Piastri that he left on the table, guys. Now, when Max comes out and says, yeah, if I'm in the McLaren, you guys won't see me. 100% this is what he's talking about. Some of the mistakes that the McLaren drivers are making. Look, this is no discredit to Oscar, but Max's lap in Suzuka was perfect, and Oscar's lap here in Bahrain was not. Let's jump over to the Bahrain testing. I'm going to show you guys what I saw in Bahrain. Then I'm going to show you guys Oscar's lap. I'm going to show you guys what he said as well. So let's crack on and have a look at this. Okay, so this is the mega front end grip of the McLaren. Just the way it turned in Bahrain testing. This is Lando Norris. I was like, wow, it was amazing. I'll show you turn 4. It's beautifully balanced, but the next corner is the one I want to call out. Have a look at the steering. There. Okay, so I'm just going to pause it here while I explain what's going on. So this McLaren's got mega front end grip, right? Lando turns into turn 8 and goes, oh, actually the car's turning better than what I thought. Remember, every time you do any input with the car, whether it's brake, throttle, steering, gears, whatever, you're making a prediction for how much grip you think there's going to be. In this case, Lando's turning into turn 8, thinking he's going to go on the trajectory that he wants, and the car goes in a little bit early with the front end grip. What he has to do is open the steering wheel for a fraction and then go again, actually go around the corner, make sure he doesn't clip the curb. So as this plays in slow motion, watch the steering wheel from Lando. This is Bahrain testing turn 8. Turn, 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 open, turn again. So that's exactly what I saw in testing. And I said, well, they've got so much front grip, it's catching the drivers out. Have a look at the pole lap now from Oscar Piastri. So here we go in the slow-mo. Same thing, turn, 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 open and turn again. Clips this curb here, unsettles the car. Look, now it's a traction issue on the exit again, bang. And it was also a traction issue for Lando Norris at the end of that. So pretty much they took it identical. Anyway, Oscar, when he's reviewing his lap with Karun on the Skypad afterwards, he's like, yeah, it caught me out, too much more grip than what I thought. So exactly what I said, bang on, guys. So this is like, there's probably a 1.5, I reckon, 2 tenths in that corner. Like you can brake so much later and carry so much speed in and keep the downforce more active and get on the throttle harder and open the steering wheel. There's so much time through that corner. I can see it. So look, I thought I'd call that out from the pole lap from Oscar Piastri, just to let you guys know it wasn't a perfect lap. Okay, let's talk about the start. I think we were robbed of a really good start. Remember, George Russell picked up this penalty for being released early or something when they didn't have the official time for starting, whatever. Sporting regulations, not my area of expertise. But I think we were robbed of a good start because I was saying yesterday after qualifying, you know, if George can get up the inside even halfway and Oscar doesn't defend this, we're on here. There's going to be an overtake into turn 1. Unfortunately, we had the Ferrari on the inside on the harder medium compound tire, and that didn't get away well, and we didn't get to see it. But I want to talk you guys through exactly what happened off the start and what Oscar didn't do. So this is Piastri's grid slot number 1, and this is Leclerc's grid spot over 2. Piastri, Leclerc number 2 over here. So what Oscar did not do was preset and line up his car pointing across to the inside. Remember, you want to compete for this space over here. That's the inside line into turn 1. So what Oscar did was start with like a straight movement here and then in the second instance, cover the inside that way. It's just more work, right? You can see by going step 1 and then step 2, you're better off just going that way. Surely that's the shortest distance to get where you want to go, which is to compete for this space here. Because if P2 does get a good start, if George Russell were here and he got a good start, he'd have to go around the outside, and you can control and manage the corner from there. So like I say, I think Oscar, there's a bit of work he could do there as well in terms of starts. And we were robbed of a good start. As it turned out, George got a mega start. He was attacking Oscar anyway around the outside into turn 1. So I think, if George had been there, but look, you never know if the inside is dirty or whatnot. We're not to say that George would have still got the same start, but I think the chances are that he probably would have. Also on the start, Lando creeps forward in his start box. I'm not sure what happened there. Apparently he was doing clutch bite point checks. Apparently he went and put it in gear. Maybe he had the clutch paddle depressed or suppressed or whatever, some sort of movement there. But it was interesting because I was just thinking as we, as the guys gave the penalty, maybe you guys can help me here, and I should probably know this. You've got the grid box here, as you can see, and then in yellow, you've got this line that runs across like that. And the question that I was asking myself during the, during the whole penalty situation is, does your tire need to be up against that yellow, or can you actually have your tire up against the black there? My understanding was it was always the yellow. Otherwise, what's the point of that line? Or is it just for the driver to be able to see where it is and then know that they've got a little bit of room, a little bit of like margin for error there as well? So yeah, interesting. I think he was totally outside of his box though. That is, the tire was in front, or slightly, some of it was in front of the line. And the other interesting thing was Max was straight onto it. He was like, mate, Lando's out of his spot. Max is such a hawk. Hey, it's like he's driving his own car, and he's driving all the other guys' cars as well. Remember Qatar last year, he's like, did Lando lift for that yellow? Because I was 1.5 seconds ahead, and now I'm 1.2 seconds ahead. I feel ripped off here because I lifted in the yellow. Double check if Lando lifted for that yellow. So Max is super switched on in these situations. As it turns out, yes, Lando was in front of his grid spot, and he did get a 5-second penalty for that. Now, the early laps of this race were always going to be super important. Remember, 3 DRS zones here. So what Oscar needed to do was just literally break George Russell in the opening lap by greater than a second so that there was no DRS active on lap 2. Oscar did that brilliantly, so kudos to him for that. Remember, George is attacking around the outside into turn 1 as well. He locks up a brake. That allowed Oscar off the hook a little bit. That's part of the reason why Oscar got his 1.2 seconds advantage after the first lap. I think from George's point of view, I know he got a good start and he wanted to capitalize and try to attack the leader and so on. But I think if he just had gone around turn 1, settled into second, and then claimed the DRS down on lap 2, that would have been a much better, better way to approach the race from him, because then he can, save a few things, save some batteries, save some tires, maybe start an attack later on. I don't think this is outcome changing like George would have won the race, but I think that would have been a better way to manage the opening lap, as opposed to going maybe all in a little bit at turn 1, having the lockup, and then falling outside of DRS come lap 2. Now, Carlos Sainz was out of position at this point, did a mega job in qualifying P8, but then all these guys start attacking him pretty early on. Both of the overtakes were very aggressive and very brave on Carlos Sainz. So Antonelli, a big dive up the inside of turn 1, pulls it off, but I thought it was brave. And also Max's one around the outside of turn 4 was brave and risky as well from the 4-time champion. So even though Carlos had no pace, the guys just ate him super quickly. They didn't muck around and waste time. Going to talk about racecraft a little bit more when we get on to the final laps with Leclerc and Lando as well. So I'll save that discussion for then. Okay, let's talk about race strategy in the first round of pit stops. So Lando's carrying this 5-second penalty as a result of being outside of his grid slot. And then they box him pretty early. He started on the medium compound tire. He started on the soft compound tire. They box him for a medium compound tire. I think this was the correct strategy. One call out that I want to give to you guys at this point is that those 3 tires, I think it's the C1, C2, and C3, they're not equally distributed in terms of the split for their how harder or how softer they go. It's not like XXX. The C1, the hard compound tire is like much harder. And so it doesn't really come back into the range of the C2 and C3. So what that means is the soft and medium are kind of in one category, and the hard tire that was brought this weekend was like really rock hard. So when Max pits for that hard tire, it was pretty interesting. Firstly, they haven't tried it all weekend. Red Bull have never stuck that tire on all weekend this weekend. And like I say, it being much harder than the other two compounds, that was a pretty brave call. If anything, I think the soft was the way to go off the start because you need it off the start. The car's got a full tank of fuel, so you need the extra grip. And then once that fuel burns, they whack on the medium tire and see who's put on the hard. You can always shorten your medium stint and whack on the hard towards the end. You can always go soft, medium, hard. I think it would have been worth Red Bull just sussing that one out. Anyway, they box Max again to get rid of that tire, stick him back on a medium, which was interesting. A lot of talk from Ferrari and Leclerc's race engineer back and forth about what tire they should put on at the first pit stop. So they boxed Leclerc for a medium. So he started the race on medium. They box him again for another medium. I think all is good at this point in the race. Like the medium was a robust tire. They did their, I don't know how many they did, 18 to 20 laps on that first one. They were going to plan to do the same again. Leclerc starts thinking about plan D, presumably a one stop, but the Ferrari guys can see Max on the hard compound tire. It's not working out. So I think that was so far so good for Ferrari. But in the end, I don't think their strategy worked out for them. I'm going to explain why a little bit later. Now the safety car comes out for all this rubbish down at turn 2. We had Tsunoda and Sainz come together. You could see a nice shot in the radiator of the Williams in the side pod, seeing the way the radiators are lying down. I thought that was pretty cool. But anyway, there's all this crap on the outside of turn 2, so we have to do a safety car. There's no other way to collect all of that. So we had a point where all the drivers come in. It was between windows of pit stops. It wasn't quite ready for the second stop, but the guys just pitted not too long ago either. So you did need to fit a tire that was going to go to the end. Now this is where Ferrari ran into trouble because they've done medium, medium. You can't whack on another medium. Firstly, they don't have one. Secondly, you've got to use two types of compounds. So their choices are either hard or soft. Yeah, tricky call. I kind of understand why they put the hard on. Yeah, like they just didn't have a choice really. The soft would have been maybe a little bit risky, but then it turns out George Russell went onto the soft tire and then Piastri boxes for a medium. So we had a situation where the top 3 cars were all on new compound tires, the Piastri medium, Russell soft, and Leclerc hard. So I thought that was interesting. And it wasn't just that they didn't know, it was they're trying to use what they have and take advantage of what they have used already. And it just had to fall that way. It was a really weird time safety car. I think if it was another 5 laps later, all 3 of them go on the soft compound tire, it would have been no problem at all. So the restart was pretty good from Oscar. As he was going around, I was trying to think where would be the best place to go. And that's not what you want to do. You don't want to be working that out on the fly, particularly if you're in the top team like McLaren. You want to be thinking about this on the Thursday when you do your track walk. Where is the best place to go? I'll bring up the track map now. Now, the problem with going early out of 14 could be that you drag the car down the pit straight and you can be under attack down into turn 1. But I think just given how tight 14 is, it is the way to go. You can always get on throttle a fraction ahead of your competitor. So that's what Oscar did. And no DRS, of course, down the pit straight. So it was hard enough to get close with the DRS. So I think Oscar was pretty safe there. I think if he'd weaved a little bit to the straight here, it gets risky now because you have to go at one point. So I think Oscar did the correct thing. So a good restart by Oscar Piastri. Just at this point, while we're on the track map, I've never seen anyone do this before. Again, I just want to call out Kimi Antonelli's line at turn 8. Now, Kimi Antonelli proving to me to be the widest line driver that I've seen. I thought it used to be Max, but now I think it's Kimi Antonelli. If I can just explain to you what I mean by wide line, I mean that you're soaking up all of the entry space available on the entry curb. So if there's an entry curb here at 4, it's that you're like all over that, opening up the corner, trying to maximize the entry and carry more speed in. Kimi Antonelli doing that on the entry to turn 8. No other driver I saw do that down here on the entry to turn 8. Now, crucially, it's interesting because you come out of 7 with a lot of speed. You find yourself on the far right-hand side of the track. I'll just zoom in, guys, so you can see that a bit better. You find yourself over here on the far right-hand side of the track. So it is more intuitive to just do less work, and not have to come all the way out across and try to carry more speed. You do a little bit more front tire damage through there. Probably do that in qualifying. But the issue for me would be the braking grip that you're going to have in this kind of sandy, curby area. But Kimi Antonelli pulled it off, guys. So that's the first time I've ever seen anyone do that. I'm going to be keeping an eye out for that in Bahrain races moving forward. Like I say, there is more work to do to get over there, but if it's worth it, it's worth it, right? So yeah, just keep an eye out for that moving forward. And if you guys get a chance to jump on board with Kimi during the race or go back and check, absolutely check for that and see if he was the only one doing it or if some of the other drivers were doing it as well. So both the McLarens, including Lando Norris, they jump back onto the medium tire. Remember, they started on the soft. So when this safety car comes out, they were on the medium and they can do medium. So they're going soft, medium, medium. I think that was the best strategy. So good job, McLaren strategy, nailing that one. And then Lando starts to have some work to do. He's got to attack Leclerc on the hards in front of him. And then if he gets rid of Leclerc, he's got to attack George Russell on the softs. So I think both of those were easy prey. You got to remember Lando's on the right strategy with the medium compound tire, and he's in the best car, and he's attacking someone in front of him on a worse car, on a worse strategy. In this case, the Ferrari on the hard compound tire should be fairly straightforward pass, I would have thought. And then if you get that done, you've got George dying at the end on the soft compound tire. So I think personally, Lando made difficult work of this. I say all that to say his attack and defense wasn't great. He was locking up around the outside of turn 1. He was attacking around the outside of turn 4, claiming that he was getting pushed off the track. I'm going to talk to that in a second. And then on the flip side of that, I think Leclerc had great racecraft. Finally, I've seen Leclerc do some good racecraft. I put out a video, I think towards the end of last year, saying Leclerc's racecraft is, I've seen some fractures in it. I'll give you an example. Vegas 2023, I think he put it on pole. He lost the lead 20 meters later. A couple of times in Austria as well, he was, attacking around the outside and defending, not great. I've just seen a few things where I thought, Leclerc's racecraft is not great. In this particular instance, I thought Leclerc's racecraft and car positioning was beautiful. Pulling to the inside at turn 1 just at the last second to try to unsettle Lando, covering the inside at turn 4, making Lando go around the outside. Leclerc always getting first to the apex, being covered by the rule. I think he did a great job. I think Leclerc did a great job in terms of racecraft, attack and defense. And I think Lando made tricky work of this. Really, he should have sliced through. I can't help but feel if this was Max, he would have sliced through pretty quickly and got up to second, pretty quickly. So I just want to talk to you guys now about the apex rule that we have in place, if it's good, and some of the limitations of it as well. Now I've got a video out and I'll link it in the description. I'll also put it as a card on the top right, but it talks about my understanding of the apex rule, what the limitations are. Actually, it's here. It's called 2024 New F1 Overtaking Rules Explained by me, Lower Lap Time. So the current rules, let's bring it up on the screen in front of you. So I'm not sure if you can read that. I'll read it out to you. The current rules dictate that a driver trying to overtake on the outside. So remember, this is Lando on Leclerc around the outside of turn 4. Only need be afforded room exiting the corner if the front axle of his car is ahead of that of the inside car at the apex. So they're comparing front axle to front axle, who is ahead at the apex. Well, that's really interesting, and I called this out in the video. If we go back to the whiteboard, what is an apex? Like, that is something that is not defined in the rules, and drivers have different apexes and rotation points. So if you can see this on the screen, if we grab turn 4 and make it bigger, and it looks something like that. And it's quite long, right? And this is the thing, it's not straightforward, and that's the curve there. So if a driver is attacking around the outside and, they're doing their rotation point, their apex is there, but the corner apex is here. And the driver on the inside might be doing something totally different, or otherwise or not, their apex might be there. Or if it's wet, for example, that's going to cause a lot of dramas as well, because in the wet, you do the whole short corner thing, your apex will be over here. So this apex thing and your apex, or the corner's apex, or the curb, or the inside, for me is vague. And that is pretty much like undermines the whole rule, in my opinion. So I made this video and I put it out saying like, well, it needs to consider a few things, guys. It's not just the apex rule. So this is what I wrote on my video, trying to work out the objective, which is who is entitled to space. And sure, I think you need to afford some weighting to who is on the inside. I think the inside is the most valuable piece of track. Like I say on the start, you want to be competing for the inside because you can control the corner a lot better. So I'd give some weighting to who is on the inside, who is ahead at the apex, and then have apex immediately defined thereafter as being a certain point. Or is it a point or is it a region? That's the other thing I talk about in this video. The speed that you carry in, what if you just dive bomb in? You're first to the apex, but you can't make the corner. You know, the apex rule doesn't hold water anymore if you're just going to dive bomb and get to the apex first, but not make the corner, if that makes sense. And then number 4, well, here it is. Yeah. In the example, where is the apex being determined as and why? And I've just put another part in here, B. What would happen if there was a hard boundary? So that means on the exit of turn 4, if there was a wall or grass, who would be backing out of it in that case? That's always a truth kind of test for me as well. So I think it should be just a referee's call based on these things. And I think if you consider those things, you can't really go wrong. So in the example with Lando Norris attacking on the outside of Charles Leclerc in turn 4, Leclerc's on the inside. Leclerc was first to the apex, which I define as the sharpest point of the curb, for example. Both of them, I think Lando carried more speed in, but it's not like Leclerc carried speed in order to claim the apex. He was fine there. And what would happen if it was a hard boundary? Yes, yeah, Lando would have to get out of that. He got out of that either way because it's pretty sandy over there. So that's how I would have judged that one. So I just wanted to give you guys an example. Like I say, I'll link the video in the description below and have a look at it and let me know what your thoughts are there. But I think it needs a more holistic approach. That's all. Now, just as the drivers came across the line, and I haven't had a chance to work it out yet, I saw Max finish ahead of Pierre. I'm not sure what happened. If you guys know, let me know in the comment section how Max got ahead. But despite his terrible strategy, jumping on the hard compound tire and then back onto the medium, I think he finished P6 in the end. So that's a mega job by Max. Great damage limitation on a track that clearly didn't suit him. Struggling with understeer again, going to need to resolve for that moving forward if he's going to fight for this championship. But I think he did everything perfect. So far, Max has been great. I think George has been near perfect as well this season as well. I feel sorry from George because it was a classy weekend from him. So he's competing for pole up against the McLarens, understanding the tires and getting the tires into the right window. He gets this penalty for releasing the car in qualifying when they don't know what time the session is going to restart. He then gets maybe potentially, it's not confirmed yet, but a 5-second penalty for opening the DRS when all of the timing screens are going crazy. His wheel's going crazy. He's got a brake issue to manage, and he got the best start out of all the guys as well. So I can't help but feel like George is he's doing a great job this season, as is Piastri and Max as well. So here's how we finished up. The race was won by Oscar Piastri, 15 seconds to George Russell. That's including a safety car, guys. So that's a hammering in the end. Like the McLaren's still ostensibly the quickest machine out there. Lando, like I say, I can't help but feel he should have got up there a little bit easier and better. But like I say, good job by George Russell in the end. The Ferraris, they did their best. I guess there's not much they could do with that medium, hard strategy. Verstappen, like I said, I'm not sure how he got ahead in the end. I'll have to check that one out. Was there contact? Was it over the line? I'm not sure. Good job by the Haas guys to get up there as well. Good job by Gasly. That's in an Alpine, don't forget. Sonoda here as well. Let's have a look at their best lap. So Verstappen best lap, 36.1. Sonoda's best lap at 37.2. That's 1.1 seconds slower than Max Verstappen. So not great race pace there as well. Antonelli, I don't think he had a good strategy as well, but it was hard for me to follow all these guys' races just with the two-stop strategy and the whole safety car going on. But this is not a great job by Lawson as well. He's going to need to do a little bit better than that. 4 tenths off his teammate, whose best lap was a 36.9, Lawson 37.3. Yeah, I think he's under pressure a little bit at the moment. Doohan's under pressure with Colapinto waiting in the wings as well. So yeah, I just thought I'd quickly talk you through the results. Good job by Hamilton in the end. I think that they had a good strategy. The medium hard was not bad. Yeah, maybe they should have considered whacking on a soft at the end. George showed you that that could go to the end, and maybe that was the way to go, particularly given they'd seen Max run it as well, not successfully. Look, that's all for this video, guys. I hope you enjoyed it and learned something from it. If you did, please drop me a comment or question in the comments section below. Don't forget to check out that other video that I linked previously. Give the video a thumbs up as well, and subscribe to this channel for more racing updates and moving forward. Next week, we have the live stream for Saudi Arabia, so I look forward to previewing that race with you there. Thanks for watching. I'll see you in the next one.